Hello, I do apologise for looking like a dog's breakfast today. Yesterday was rather a good Friday, if you catch my drift, and I'm feeling rather worse for wear today. I'm here on YouTube because I haven't been political enough, and I repent, and I do have certain opinions, and it's called YouTube because it's you, i.e. me, on the tube, i.e. the telly, and it is a voice for democratic opinion, provided that opinion is not expressed in any kind of offensive way, and I don't intend to do that, but yeah, I do have a definite opinion about this particular news story. It concerns an article in the Daily Mail, which is a UK tabloid newspaper of ill repute, which published an article about a guy that was going to come to school after a school holiday break with a gender reassignment, and henceforth was going to be a woman. So here we go then. The actual article in the Daily Mail is now no longer online, but somebody in The Guardian wrote something called the Green Slade blog, and they wrote about it. So I'm going to read from the article and interject, as it were, with my own opinions. So here we go. Alright, it's entitled Daily Mail Urged to Fire Richard Littlejohn After Death of Lucy Meadows. Let me begin this posting by urging that people do not rush to judgment. Sorry, I'm reading from my phone, so if I'm looking down, that's why. I say that because the unfolding of this story is likely to stimulate prejudice on either side. My aim here is simply to set out the facts. It concerns a woman's death in circumstances that are not yet definitively clear, and a controversial column in the Daily Mail. In late December last year, the Accrington Observer reported that a male primary school teacher would be returning after the Christmas break as a woman. The story said that the head teacher of a Church of England school, St Mary Magdalene's, had notified parents that Nathan Upton would be known in future as Miss Lucy Meadows. A day later, the Daily Mail's Richard Littlejohn wrote a column headlined "He's not only in the wrong body, he's in the wrong job," in which he asked whether anyone had thought of the devastating effect, in quotes, on pupils of the teacher's change in gender. He wrote, "Why should they be forced to deal with the news that a male teacher they have always known as Mr. Upton will henceforth be a woman called Miss Meadows?" He continued, "The school shouldn't be allowed to elevate its commitment to diversity and equality above its duty of care to its parents and their to its pupils and their parents." Right. Yeah. Children have to deal with an awful lot of rubbish in their lives, or many children have to deal with an awful lot of rubbish in their lives, sometimes before they're 5 years old. Some of it quite devastating, and you really wonder how they manage to cope. Especially if they are the done-to ones, okay? And I'm talking here of, you know, domestic abuse, neglect, that sort of thing. And yeah, of course they shouldn't have to deal with that. But where it's something like an issue like this, provided that things are done sensitively, they cope. Children take on board the information that they can understand, and they cope. They adjust. Some children might find it easier than others, but, you know, children being children, anyone who's got them will know that children just ask questions, and they ask questions, especially little children. You know, they're not necessarily meaning to be controversial or offensive. It might just be, you know, to them, they can ask, why is the sky blue? and they can ask, you know, why has a man become a woman? And it's still in the same kind of sort of questioning and inquisitive way. And provided that they're answered truthfully but sensitively, it doesn't do them any harm at all, I don't believe. And yes, as I've kind of said, children have to take on a lot worse news in their lives than that, okay? Furthermore, the fact that this is being dealt with in such a negative way by the newspaper in question, it is, you know, it's incredibly damaging. It's incredibly damaging to the person concerned and actually the pupils of the school. Okay, I don't really know a huge amount about gender or reassignment or anything like that, but I did watch a documentary last year called My Transsexual Summer, and they took 10 people who were going to go through this gender change, and they put them in a house together. And they talked about their experiences together. And I don't think there was a single one of them whose self-esteem was not at total rock bottom. That is when, you know, when your self-esteem is like that, that is when you are very vulnerable to things like suicide and stuff like that. These people couldn't walk down the street for fear of being taunted and teased and bullied, even when they're in the body that, you know, perhaps they were born with, which they feel is the wrong one. But even then, they still feel worthless because they obviously feel that they're in the wrong body, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal. These people who were going through the gender reassignment process found themselves not able to get jobs, not even being able to find somewhere to live, because, you know, people saying, we don't want you to live with us, we don't want stones being thrown through our windows, and yes, you're very nice indeed and everything, and we've got no problem with you, but we're frightened that other people will. You know, what an awful kind of condemnation that is. It's terrible. It's terrible. And so this person, Nathan Upton, you can only assume inside he felt like that because of society's prejudice. Okay, and Richard Littlejohn has added to that. He has made the assumption, therefore, that the children, all the children of that school, would be somehow traumatised by a teacher's decision, and has not actually been able to see that actually it might actually do children a lot of good. You know, we would never say now in this day and age that because somebody is blind or deaf or, you know, is disabled in some way, that children shouldn't be allowed to mix with them. You know, why should they be traumatised by the fact that a person is blind? It's as bad as saying that, to be honest. You know, and in fact, it actually does the children a lot of good, because provided that they're taught to be sensitive and caring and kind about the issue, it actually, you know, is a very positive experience for them. And you know, you know, it's an odious opinion to say that children would not be able to cope with, you know, that sort of situation. And you know, Nathan Upton / Lucy Meadows could have provided a very positive role model to those children as well, about winning through sort of personal issues of, you know, of a huge magnitude, really. So yeah, you know, on that count, he's totally wrong. He's totally wrong. So we have a further paragraph here. These are primary school children, for heaven's sake. Most of them still believe in Father Christmas. Let them enjoy their childhood. They will lose their innocence soon enough. Grr. You know, just, you know, it's totally wrong. It's totally wrong. Littlejohn, who made it clear he sympathised with people who required sex change operations, concluded, yes, a very sympathetic attitude there, his own personal problems. Nathan Upton is entitled to his gender reassignment surgery, but he isn't entitled to project his personal problems onto impressionable young children. Personal problems. Yes, it's seen as a problem because that's the way it's always been portrayed. I would like to think that in a caring and kind society that we're supposed to live in, that this sort of thing is not a problem. It just isn't a problem, you know. And I would fight tooth and nail for somebody to be able to live the life that they chose. That's why, you know, that's why I believe in a democracy. You know, so anyway, yeah. Right, by insisting on returning to St Mary Magdalene's, he is putting his own selfish needs ahead of the well-being of the children he has taught for the past few years. It would have been easy for him to disappear quietly at Christmas, have the operation, and then return to work as Miss Meadows at another school on the other side of town in September. No one would have been any the wiser. Do what? Do what? This is like saying that somebody daren't show their face. Live your life in secret. Live your life in secret. Go away somewhere else and don't show your face again to people that you've worked with, to children that you've worked with. Is that the kind of society that he wants for his children? Oh, just go away. That's just an appalling thing to say. Absolutely appalling. If he cares so little for the sensibilities of the children he is paid to teach, he's not only trapped in the wrong body, he's in the wrong job. He's probably in the right job, actually. He was probably in the right job. That column has now been taken down from the Mail site following the news that Lucy Meadows was found dead at a house in Accrington on Tuesday. The Sky News report quotes a Lancashire policewoman as saying there were no suspicious circumstances. This is usually taken to mean that it's a case of suicide, though it is possibly not the case. There's about an nth amount of a chance that it's possibly not suicide, given the issues that I've mentioned and raised earlier. Now an online petition has been launched calling on the Mail to fire Littlejohn and demanding a formal apology for the stress and pain caused to Lucy Meadows by the columnist, the paper and its readership. I take issue with some of that paragraph. I will explain why a bit later. The petition organiser states, no one deserves to have their lives turned upside down for their gender identity being thrown into the national spotlight. Quite right, absolutely quite right. The reason the parents who had a problem went to the Daily Mail is that they're wrong there, by the way. There's an awful lot of misspelling and misprints in this article. I don't know why they can't take a bit more care, but anyway. So the reason why the parents who had a problem went to the Daily Mail is that there was no way to get her fired under equal opportunity law. So they tried to give the school bad press by saying how terrible it is she is allowed to live her life freely. The parents went to the Daily Mail with the express intention of getting somebody fired from their job. That is not the law of the land. That is not employment law. If she had been fired from her job, then the school would have been, as a result of this article I'm talking about here, the school would have been, it's constructive dismissal. I'm sure it would count as constructive dismissal. It's punishable by in a court of law, and they would just get sued hundreds of thousands of pounds for that. It's not the law of the land. Okay, we do not live in some backward state where people have to go and use sort of vigilante tactics in order to get something done. This is not where a country where people have to go and buy their own police. I know that sadly that's the state in certain other countries that I could mention, but it isn't here. And the Daily Mail is not the guardian of the nation's morals, neither is it a court of law, neither should it be treated as such, and that is just vindictiveness personified, to go to a newspaper with the intent of getting somebody fired because there appears to be no other way to do it. Why should that person be fired? Why should that person be fired? If there had been, some genuine reason why a person should get fired from a job, then it's dealt with in confidence. And, there are, the right sort of legal people involved, union people, goodness knows what else, that all get involved. And it's done in a far more sort of, I suppose, do I mean caring? I don't know. But, it's certainly done in a far more confidential way than that. And there have to be genuine reasons. One's gender reassignment is not a genuine reason why somebody should be fired from a job. So, it's that's bullying. It's bullying, it's witch hunting, it's vigilante tactics. It isn't, how a democratic society should be allowed to function. So, yes, you can imagine why this person was feeling so low after that. Because, they'd literally been put into a position where they couldn't show their face. And Richard Littlejohn, he encouraged that kind of attitude. Go away somewhere else and do it. And no one would ever know. It's just, someone's self-esteem and self-worth. If anyone said that to him and plastered it over the papers or the telly, I think he would be feeling exactly the same. Okay, so should Richard Littlejohn be fired? No. No, he shouldn't be fired for the same reason that, some parent going to a newspaper and trying to get somebody fired is not right. People going to Facebook or Twitter or whatever, or YouTube, and demanding somebody be fired is not the kind of justice that I believe in. If it's going to be true for Lucy Upton, it's also true for Richard Littlejohn. It's I believe in that there ought to be justice on two levels, and I believe that actually there will be justice on two levels. Okay, and really, it comes down to like on a sort of national or global level, people actually seeing this story, assimilating the tragedy, and never letting it happen again. Okay, that's number one. Number two, on a personal level, I do hope this doesn't happen really, but I hope a situation like that never happens for Richard Littlejohn and his family. It's all very easy to stand up in a church or in a newspaper or anything like that and pronounce a moral judgment against somebody until while it doesn't affect you, it's easy to point fingers and howl like wolves for somebody's blood. It's very easy to do that. But when it affects you on a personal level, then suddenly something inside you kind of changes. When it happens to your own blood, your own flesh and blood, your attitudes change. And that's what I hope happens, really. I hope that, on a personal level, he's affected by transgender issues. I hope that inside himself, he feels totally mortified for what he's done, and I hope he learns from it. And I hope he repairs the damage that he's done, not necessarily in a financial way, because there's no amount of money that would ever compensate for somebody's loss. No formal apology in a newspaper, while his mind is still as twisted as it is. There's no amount of apology that could be enough. No amount of money in terms of compensation or anything like that will be enough to compensate for the loss of a person. But a total transformation of this person's opinions and of his attitudes is probably worth more. It's a slightly sort of karmic kind of solution, really, that you will at some point be made to restore. And do I mean restore? Probably not. But in some way, repair the damage that you've done. And I can't really say more than that, really. It's an absolute tragic loss of life. As lots of things are an absolute tragic loss of life. But, we live in a morally dead society. One day, I believe in life. I believe in life overcoming, the rubbish that we have to put up with. And I believe it will. But, there's no way that anyone can say that Richard Littlejohn was right to publish that article, because he wasn't. The Daily Mail, there's no way that they were right to publish him. They should have known better. And, if it encourages a more sensitive attitude to things, then yes, fabulous. Okay, I've gone on long enough. Bye.